Not a problem.
All right, we're good, Mayor.
All right, we're good. We are live, and we are raging with CONNERY CATENI. I hope I said your last name right.
Oh, no, don't worry. You did.
All right, and the notifications are going off on Nita's phone, which means we are live. You know what that means? You know what that means? It means that you subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already, and sharing this out with your friends on the socials, because that's what we do. We love talking to our creative friends and networking with each other. So, raging with CONNERY CATENI, Dragon Multimedia LLC. We're going to be talking about the creative journey and what he's been doing and what's to come right after our intro. We'll be right back after this.
Raging.
All right, you guys, you had your opportunity to hit the share button and subscribe because we are simulcasting to Indie Volt, Geek Insider, Comics and More New Jersey, as well as Ragin' AVC. Hit the button! Ragin' with CONNERY CATENI, episode 51. What? That's kind of crazy. Here we go. Dropping the card and going to put Connery into the seat of honor. Welcome to the show.
It's nice being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Not a problem. So, what we love to do is talk about the creative journey, what got you here, what your inspirations were, some of the pitfalls, some of the successes. And so why don't we talk about that? So I see you all over social media, and thank you for being one of those who hit the share button for a lot of independent creators. We really appreciate that you do that. But I see Dragon Multimedia all over the place. Tell us about that. What is that, and what are you doing with Dragon Multimedia?
So, Dragon Multimedia is my LLC. It's basically how I put all my projects under one roof. So, if you don't know, I'm the only person there currently, as of right now, and I'm basically the 19-year-old founder and CEO and also product manager at Dragon Multimedia. So, it mainly started... the story of Dragon starts years ago to mainly my beginnings, actually. So, I actually got into comics because since I'm on the spectrum, my dad used entertainment, especially comics, to get me to learn reading and writing skills, as I've had a lot of learning issues since childhood. Now, I have improved. My eye contact's gotten better. My speech is better. But it still comes up from time to time.
So when you say you're on the spectrum, is it Asperger's, autism?
Autism.
Autism. Okay, because I'm on the... Well, I mean, I reject being called that I'm on the spectrum because I think Aspies are a totally different animal for some reason. That's me personally, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 30s. But I always knew that something was a little off with me, as did all my friends. So so that must have been kind of tough for you, like learning social cues and, you know, because you just mentioned it, eye contact and stuff like that. Nita and I, we kind of go through the same thing. So if you don't mind me talking about that a little bit, because there are a lot of our friends who happen to be on the spectrum of some sort, or they're an Aspie, or, you know, we deal with some kind of mental health, I want to say. Okay. So growing up, when were you diagnosed with that? Was it really early on?
Yes, truthfully, I always knew there was something wrong with my social cues, and stuff, but it didn't really. I wasn't basically told until I was about a teenager in around middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of a tough time for sure, because at one point you didn't know that you had it, but you always had the idea of something being off, and then later on when it basically showed up, it started making a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it made me more committed, because at the same time, the way I view autism is, it's a downside, yes, but it's not an excuse. I still have to do the work to make sure that I can basically rise above it. Because, yeah, I got autism, but I have to basically be the better person. I have to make the decisions, because at the end of the day, anything that comes out of my mouth is my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
So-
coping
I
skills.
love
and
it.
things like
Own that shit.
I have, and I do, and I commend you for doing that, because it's not easy, especially when a lot of times for me, when I was younger, I didn't do a lot of self-reflection. A lot of it was just, I felt like I was always on defense, and I always felt like everything was a battle, rather than saying, rather than kind of turning it around on myself and going, how could I have reacted better to this?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's always been a struggle. Thank you for sharing that, though, because
I just let my special needs flag fly. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm impulsive. I'm gonna say it. If I need to apologize for it, I probably won't. And just keep going from there.
well,
I'm not blaming it. I don't care. Nope, I'm an asshole.
a lot of times I am like I try not to be too apologetic for my behaviors, unless I'm really being a douche, and that happens. I have my moments.
It does.
It does, but I also being on the spectrum too, from what you were saying, you own your mistakes, so like when something goes wrong and that you had your hands on it, it's like, yeah, it was me. And then you let the cards fall where they may. So moving forward with Dragon Multimedia, you said started a couple of years ago.
Dragon was actually a recent thing, because basically as I got older, I got really invested into the creative side of entertainment. So I started moving on to stuff like anime to mainly learn and stuff. And it led me to work on a few animation projects, which caused the creation of... It started with Art Animation Network, which was the brand me and Geo used. It was mainly Geo's idea originally as a little side name, and then I made it a little more bigger. And then after I had left Go Animate, I started planting the seeds for what would become Dragon Multimedia, with what it was called West Corps, which is basically how do I put this? It's basically a predecessor to Dragon Multimedia, and that was a similar idea, just without the LLC. So the company would have become, or would have been, West Corps, but later on I found out that Dragon Multimedia was available, and I was like, I might as well do one that fits me a little more, because West Corps was very plain, but Dragon Multimedia, it was a lot cooler. So I was like, it's a better name, it's a better identity we can forge, so we went all in on that.
So tell me a little bit more about about what the long-term goals are for Dragon Multimedia. Like, are you getting into animation? Is it music? Is it comic books solely? What are you planning on doing with that? Because starting off new, let me just preface that by saying I'm almost 50, and I worked on my very first comic book this past year. One of the hardest things I've ever done as a creator, because there's so many aspects to it.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, so many things. And every day I tell myself that I am uncomfortable. Not just because I've got that, I've got the SB thing going on. That's uncomfortable anyway. Whole other level of uncomfortable, because I'm always on a learning curve.
Absolutely.
and always striving to be better and glean information from people who are walking the walk. So had I been your age, there's no way. There's no way. So I really kind of commend you for kind of stepping into the ring. Not an easy thing to do. What in the world is going on in your head?
Well, truthfully, for Dragon Multimedia, I always had, like, these ideas and ambitions. Like, I want to do more comic projects. I want to do more IP-based work. I also want to help give indie creators more of a... I wouldn't say platform, I'd say more of a avenue to print their work. But obviously that's in the future because I am an ideas man. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of story ideas. Like, for example, there's Shyft, which was one of them, but there's also Bender, Katie. Now, those last two are ones I never brought up before because they're very new, but the thing about those last two were that those were newer ideas for potential comics. So one of the things I love to do is, while I'm working on projects, one of the ways is how do I improve myself? So I practice with some storytelling things. It was how when... I'll get a little more into when you bring up the inspiration for Shyft, but when I got the inspiration for Shyft, it started out with a simple idea and then evolved from there. And usually when I practice outlining and stuff, I practice storytelling and stuff. So that's where the ideas for Katie and Bender came in, which are two unrelated projects that obviously they're in pre-production, but they're not going anywhere until Shyft is fully dealt with. But,
right. Well, tell us a little bit about those because you mentioned them a couple of times. What is Katie about?
So Katie is basically the idea where you have someone who has a normal life but a fantasy world she loves to explore, inviting in other works of art. Then one day it becomes a reality, but things go haywire and it becomes a nightmare that she has to get out of.
And then Bender?
Bender is basically the... Imagine... Sorry. I think I'm losing my train of thought.
Oh, you know what? You have the puppy there. Go ahead and bring the puppy up.
My apologies.
It's all right. This is live streaming. We have dogs and naked kids and...
Well, we try to limit that, and it's not for entertainment purposes.
It might be for me. I don't know. Who are you snuggling up there?
So this is one of my newer dogs. This is Chip. And
oh my
Chip
god. Looks like an Ewok.
It's a Maltese.
Oh.
He is, I like to call him the little brother of Bianca, who is the inspiration for Shyft. And I always have him here because I love this little dog.
Oh, he's adorable. And he is more than welcome to be on screen with us while we are streaming because that is what we do. Okay, so getting back on track then, you were telling us a little bit about Bender.
So Bender is about a guy who can basically bend time and space at will to his advantage with no consequences. And the idea is he has to basically become an anti-hero.
So is it more like so he can time travel? Is it like through
no, it's
or?
Not time travel. It's
not
actually
time travel.
It's basically bending the laws of. It's basically you can erase people, you can change stuff. You can basically avoid attacks by manipulating yourself from going in and out. It's a very crazy concept.
Very cool. So now you also mentioned something about outlining. When you're putting your ideas together and things, a lot of times inspiration comes in the most odd places. Sometimes it'll be while you're shopping or traveling and things. And oftentimes we've talked to a lot of creators here who they'll stop, they'll pull over if they're driving to write down an idea, or they'll get on their phone and they'll record themselves and things. Where does your inspiration come from mostly?
It depends on the project, because some of them just pop up, some are coincidental, like with Shyft, while others just come up in my mind. Like, the thing with Katie was that was more of a joke because the tagline I had was "Everybody has one," because the joke was that there's always like a Katie character. Like one of the jokes that was recently was that Shang-Chi had Marvel's Katie because of how much the name is used. So the idea was mainly how everybody has a Katie, so I was like, why don't I have my own? In a way.
Yeah,
And-
for me, it's well, not to be rude or anything. It's like, hey, everybody's got an asshole, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Not to be rude or anything.
Right, not to be rude. I mean, but it's true. It's true, you know. And sometimes I point to my husband, or
I got
and
you,
she does.
girl.
She does the same thing to me. She does the same thing to
I
me.
got
That's
you.
love. It's love. No, we're having fun. We're having fun.
You just open your mouth and shit keeps coming out his asshole now.
So when you're working with these inspirations and things like that, do you write them down? Do you have like a photographic memory? Because I wanna hear more about your outlining process too when you get to that.
So it's a mix because sometimes I make sure I remember it, because sometimes I like to refine things before I write it down. And with Shyft, it started with one idea and it became a lot bigger. But it had to go for several outlines. My first one was pretty terrible. It was basically, here's two set of characters. Oh, here's another character. Here's another one, and another one, and another one. And that was supposed to be issue 1. There was no way I could have had a good story with the way it was. So I went back to the drawing board and I created a second outline, which was better, but it was still quite mixed. So that's when I had to bring on Michael Odin to the product. When I contacted him, was like, hey, I saw that you did writing since you were on this Cartoons for Hire site, and I brought him on board. And he basically has done a lot in the product. He helped refine the outline to what would become the final version of Shyft I see today. And as with the other ones, right now it's more of a basic outline. Like, there's not much done because I'm focusing on Shyft. But I always like to write down ideas and stuff because obviously things don't last in here forever, so I like to draw my thoughts down on paper, if you get what I mean.
So what are the things that work for you, and what have you tried and kind of rejected as far as keeping your ideas organized? Because we have friends who live and die by index cards, sticky notes, and things like that. What do you use?
What I use is actually either Microsoft Word or the Sticky Notes app on PC. Because I usually do a lot of web browsing to work on projects and also to manage stuff as well. So I always like to write down notes a lot on the computer.
Sarah, welcome to the chat here. Who else have we got here? We've got Dustin Brunel who says, make it shareable. I don't know where you're watching from. You better get your butt over
It's
to
Facebook.
YouTube. Get your butt over to YouTube. YouTube. And hit the subscribe button. That's what I'm talking about. Facebook. Piffle. So, I see that that you are also, because I was kind of trolling your website here. Tell me a little bit about Wild Animation Network. What is that?
So Wild Animation Network, I brought up a little bit before, but it is currently the collab brand of me and Geo, who also goes by a Wild Mew. And the idea with that is it's basically the brand I use in place of Dragon for projects we work on together. Like, for example, Oscar Reborn, I have a little bit of production history with it since I'm partly a writer on it and I help promote it as well. So it gets a mention there. Sandalston, which is the upcoming project directed by Edouard Mew. We also have Wayne on that one because I'm helping out with promotion there and a little bit of the writing process since I'm executive producer. And yeah, it's basically a continuation of what we started back in 2014.
Is it like full-on animation? Is it just like little film shorts that you're doing? Are you
As of
working
right
towards
now,
feature films?
as of right now, it's just mini online projects.
Mhm.
Like, for example, Oscar Not to Be Born. It's a little bit. The length of it is like a TV episode, but it's animated using Wrapper Offline, which is the current modern day version of Go Animate. Which I would say it's a lot more online based. It's not really something we would take to TV, absolutely. So, but obviously, while we have future ambitions, obviously right now we're using these projects as sort of stepping stones to future endeavors.
Sure. Have you been looking into gaming and things like that, game development?
Yes. I'm not really that much of a game development type, unfortunately. I love games, but
Hmm.
it's not really something I want to do on my own time because I'm more of a storyteller and not really like a game dev, unfortunately.
Right, right. So with the storytelling aspect too, and that you're putting together your teams to create these comic books and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Would you say how would you describe your writing process? Because you talked about outlining, but I started off as a prose writer. I am still a prose writer. Having been working on
Hmm.
scripts though, and Nita in the back room with me going, "Cut it! You don't need it." Um, that's my Nita voice in my head.
Yes, I
Uh,
sound just like that.
cut it.
God
Um,
dang.
Now trying to get back into prose, I'm like, where are my words? I'm suffering for them. Um, do you think more in prose or do you think more in scripts and outlines?
Uh, I apologize, but what is prose?
Prose, it's long form writing.
Oh, so I'm mainly into scripts and outlining because it's how I jot my ideas down, it's how I make sequence of events for the story to go through, and it makes it easier to edit because if an audience doesn't like the way a story's going, you can easily change events to suit the audience or suit your vision better,
Hmm.
which is how Michael was able to come in and really fix up the story. Because had I not done the outline and came with a bunch of ideas,
Hmm.
I believe he could have done it absolutely, but it would have required a lot more work and it would have required a lot more time. And obviously, in a project like this, it would have been a lot more unorganized. So I like to keep things organized. So when I came to him, I came with the outline because,
Hmm.
sorry. Sorry. These dogs are driving me nuts at times, and they interrupt me every day.
That's
Shit,
all
I
right.
know you love me, but come on. But as I was saying, the reason why I came to Michael with an outline was I like things organized.
Hmm.
And it's why you will notice that I prefer outlines to scripts, because I like to keep things organized, and if I need to make corrections, it's easier.
Right. And so when you are putting together your outlines, how specific are you? Because again, we've had a lot of people, everybody does it differently. That's the thing that
Hmm.
I've found, that there's no standardized way of putting a comic book together.
Hmm.
Really. And it's not as easy as saying, "Oh, I've got words and art." It's not like that at all. A lot of times there are some people who are very specific
Hmm.
about how they want the angle to be when it comes to art.
Hmm.
Not being an artist for me is like I rely heavily on an artist's interpretation of my words. And
Oh,
at some
absolutely.
point I'm like very I have to be satisfied with that.
Hmm.
And then there are some who are like, no, I want it at this angle, I want this, and this. How in depth do you get when you're throwing your ideas into this outline?
It's more similar to your style, Meredith. So basically, I like to do a sequence of events, how the characters would do stuff, but I don't go into angles and stuff because as a writer, I like to leave it up to interpretation because I have faith in not only ones who the writer of the comic itself, but also the artist to really make it shine, which is something that I did with Shyft and really paid off because bringing on Michael for writing and also bringing on Ringo for art, what both of them did was they took the outline and basically brought a whole new spin on it that really brought my story to life.
Mm-hmm. How how do you go about finding your team? Because that is another huge challenge that people
Mm-hmm.
have, finding their artists, finding
Oh,
people who will
goodness.
collaborate and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
know my personal journey, but this show isn't about me. This is about you.
Yeah.
Where did you go? First, let's talk about your artist.
So it was a pain with the artist. Let's be honest. There was so many creators I contacted that never got back to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't blame them. They didn't know who I was. Like, if they searched me out, they'd just say, "Oh, this Go Anime guy." Yeah, I don't trust him. And at this point, in to quote Neff, I basically abandoned my previous platforms because of school and stuff. So when I was starting to really come back, I basically was starting from scratch, basically. So
Mm-hmm.
I contacted fellow artists. Some had just started comic work. Some were good in betweens, and nobody really got back to me, unfortunately. Which again, it sucked, but no one knew who I was. So, but then there was Ringo. So Ringo was known as a Sonic fan artist. Basically, he does a lot of fan work, but he also did comic work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out that basically found his account and his comic work. I was like, yeah, I gotta get this guy on board. So I contacted him, and surprisingly, he got back to me. And after a little discussion, he was brought on board. And this was shortly after I fully brought on Michael on board.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, the project, no one really knew what it wanted to be. Because I had the outline and what the script was looking like. But the tone, the genre, it was a little bit of a mix because we're still basing on the old outline. And later on, when I got Ringo on board, the first day that Ringo and Michael chatted, easily something clicked. And easily we got more of a tone for what the book would become, because it was at that meeting that we basically fully figured out what we wanted it to be. Because at that point, Michael and Ringo had two different ideas on what it was, because I was thinking of an action-adventure story, but I believe the way I was telling it was a bit mixed at best. So when Ringo came on board, and when I finally got both of them to chat for the first time, and I was fully able to lay out my ideas, everything started clicking together. Like, yes, this is the direction we need to go. And there was the character designs, the changes there. Easily, those started becoming more common because we finally got an idea of what we wanted Shyft to be. So it was crazy how one series of event could really make a story become something else on its own. And
Oh, sure.
it's
Yeah,
amazing.
and a lot of times when you're collaborating with other people, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it feels like it's struggle, 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 and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you get bits of information from other people. I love the collaborative process
Mm-hmm.
because you weave in those ideas, and all of a sudden it becomes it has a life of its own. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, where are we going to go with this? So having said that, where do you see after Shyft, because this is the first issue of Shyft,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see your next project? Is it going to be Shyft 2?
Mm-hmm.
Are you working on a different IP? What are we looking at here?
The main idea is we're going to continue with Shyft issue 2.
Mhm.
And then in the meantime, I'll be working on some pitches and ideas like Bender, Katie, and then we'll also look at some IP work because I love to storytell. I love to do ideas, and I'm mainly focused on building Shyft. And then there's also going to be the other stuff.
Mhm.
So my main focus is here with Shyft, but the other stuff I'll do on the side, and if it becomes a project as well, I'll try to organize it so that I can do that and Shyft as well. because I love the storytelling process. I love doing ideas. I love telling stories, and there's some that I really want to tell. So,
Well, what are some of those ideas, and what genres are you kind of looking into?
so I was looking at Bender and Katie, as mentioned before. Both of them are more fantasy, a little bit of horror for Katie, while Bender is more action adventure. It's a lot more of a comedy than Shyft because it's more the anti-hero type, so you get to have a little bit of fun with the ridiculousness of it. But one of the things I'm looking at is I don't want to say a lot about them because they're still way in development, so there's nothing really publicly I can say about them right now.
Sure.
Because they need a lot of work before I even think about telling about them. But let's just say I'm looking at some IP work, mainly to have under Dragon. I've been working on, obviously, the Go Anime projects like Oscar Reborn and Sandalston we're looking at. Continuing Shyft is a big one, depending on how the campaign goes, obviously. But obviously one of the biggest things is fully building back up the platform that I left, starting to make it more consistent, and also bring in the audience, bring in a whole new audience of comic creators to finally get something that they'll really enjoy, not because the comic characters represent their skin or who they are, but to have a story that they can look up to and that they can enjoy from ages 10 to however old they become. Because again, one of the great things about storytelling is I love to tell stories that people will get behind, that will love for generations. So that's where I envision taking Dragon, to tell more stories from me or other creators. But obviously right now I'm focused on getting my stories and having it so that it could be more refined.
Well, Connery, we are past our half an hour mark. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be right back. All right, everybody, this is Ragin with Connery Cateni. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this out with your friends. We are talking about his creative journey and what is to come with Dragon Multimedia LLC. Shyft is on Indiegogo right now. All of the links are in this show notes, so make sure that you give that a little bit of love. And while we're giving out love, we're going to give love to Greed. That is also on Indiegogo. Here we go with that. That's right, everybody. Greed is over on Indiegogo. The link is also in the show notes. And Nada, do you want to take this one?
For a 10% discount on your Gemini mailer, go to Gemini Comic Supply Store and enter coupon code VOLT10. That is coupon code VOLT10. VOLT number 10. Thank you, Varian Grant and Indie Volt Radio.
Yeah, we appreciate you for sharing that link. And again, we are Raging with Connery Cateni. This is episode 51. And where are you? There you are. Hello. So we are on the second half of our hour here, and we are going to bring up your campaign. But I wanted to also ask you about what you see as far as developing other creators, because multimedia to me suggests that you are kind of producing a lot of other things. Obviously you want to produce your stuff. That's the thing that Nita and I are struggling with. It's like we have our own stuff, but we're working on so many other people's projects. I'm like, maybe it should be the other way around. But for you, it's really cool to see you kind of focused, trying to get your work out, developed, produced, and out into the world. You are, obviously getting a team together to help with the fleshing out the writing, the artwork, and things like that. And it is a time-consuming process, and sometimes quite expensive. But when it comes to, let's just say, forward thinking, maybe a couple of years down the line, you got a couple of IPs that you've developed, with Bender, Katie, and Shyft here. How do you hope to maybe help other indie creators in the future?
Mainly giving them a little bit of a platform to help basically make their products to life in comic form. Because one of the things I was thinking about was potentially, as we started doing our own IP and a little bit of other IP work as well, creator driven mostly, the reason thing about Dragon is that if you see me on a project, you'll see the dragon come around, basically. So you'll see it on a lot of projects. If I help out with writing stuff, you'll see it. It's mainly a mark of, basically, if I'm there, you'll see it.
And, I really appreciate, again, this is something that Nita and I really appreciate, is that with the social media presence that you are building, a lot of people, a lot of independent creators, they do social media badly. Or they just don't take the time to do anything but kind of shill their own things, And so I really want to say that I appreciate you when I see you out there. You are always retweeting, you're always sharing other people's projects and things like that. And we need more people like that to kind of take a step beyond. And that to me is it's helpful in getting to know where you are, because it's not always about the me, you got to turn that upside down and turn that into the we.
Absolutely.
And share our network. So that's something that I do really appreciate. And we do have your links on our social, on our show notes. That's what I was trying to say. So we do have that. Make sure that you guys, if you're tuning in, make sure that you're following him on his social media as well, because I don't know how you feel about being tagged. I know for me, it's kind of like by invitation only. Otherwise, we get inundated. How do you feel about being tagged on the socials, Connery?
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy if you tag me, because, again, it's a way that I can keep track of people who mention me and want to give support, and it also allows me to check out their work as well and help share. So, yeah. If you want to shout out Shyft or share it with the social media on Facebook or Twitter, feel free. Yeah. And it's not just to you, Meredith, but it's to everybody here.
Very cool. Very cool. So now we are bringing up Shyft issue 1, New Beginnings here. The campaign is on Indiegogo, you guys. You've got ways to go to your flexible. I mean, it's a flexible goal. Meredith can speak today. You've got 2 days left. Are you planning on extending this? Because I know with Indiegogo you can get up to 60 days.
So here's what we decided. Basically, despite the flexible goal, if we don't hit the 4K goal in 2 days, how it will work is that we fund everybody as a sign of goodwill, and we go back to the drawing board. Because what's going on is there have been some schedule changes, mainly with Ringo's schedule. And it wouldn't be fair if we held on to the money for a project that might take longer if we don't get the funding. Because if we're going to have to go back and ask for more funding because we don't hit the goal, it would be better off to refund everybody, go back to the drawing board, get Ringo's schedule cleared up, and then once everything is dealt with there, we can finally get a little bit more work done while also not repeating the mistakes of the previous campaign, depending on how things go, obviously.
Well, I can really appreciate that because there are some campaigns where I didn't realize that it would be like 2 years before I was going to see the
Damn
book.
straight. I was just thinking that. I was like, man, that's an honorable thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be more encouraging to come back and back than these motherfuckers that hold your shit for 2.5, 3 years. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then
Absolutely.
half the time it's like and then you finally get it in the mail and you're like, what is the?
Oh, I forgot about this.
that.
Oh, what? Oh, shit.
See, I don't want to be forgettable.
And like when the ones that come later, I'm like out of the mood by the time they come. Like I get all hot and bothered when I order a crowdfunder. I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I get all excited. And then I get these random ones that I ordered like a year ago, and I was like, what the hell even? What? Oh, okay.
So out of curiosity, then, how far into Shyft are you guys? I mean, have you obviously you've got a story. You've been working with Michael.
The
Oden.
script is done.
Yep.
And we just have to finish up the pages of the book because, as you can tell, we got the cover, we got the other alternate covers for cover B and C, and we also have the preview pages you see here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're going to be scrolling through here so that we can take a look at the artwork and some of the interiors and stuff like that for the pages that you do have. Now, so is he doing all of the line work, all of the coloring and everything?
Ringo does all the line work. Laura Adams, his colorist, actually does all the coloring.
Oh, very good. Okay.
And they also did the main cover and cover C, which is the main deluxe edition.
So
we
this
got
is
a guest
25
artist
pages
for
of story. Yeah.
We have a guest artist for cover B, but I'll get into that a little later.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, we're kind of just scrolling through the campaign here to get an idea of what the art is looking like. So, tell us a little bit more about Shyft.
So, Shyft is a concept that is very dear to me because it draws inspirations from the comics I loved growing up. Because I've always been fond of worlds like Sonic's as a nice way to escape. So the world of Shyft provided that. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but
Yep. No. So you were inspired by Sonic. What other inspirations can we find that helped influence the?
So, the initial idea actually came from the summer of 2020. So, it was during one of the darkest times during my life. And it was after my family lost several dogs and family members due to several health reasons unrelated to COVID. So, and my dog Bianca was actually comforting me. And that's when the idea struck me. See, Bianca was, in a way, the hero I didn't know I needed. And so I wanted to make a world where the animals were heroes. This idea is where Shyft was born from.
So, is it something that's kind of mystical, ghostly? Is it like imaginary friends? How do they come into this world?
The idea is that I created Sheobia as a way to really mesh my favorite fantasy elements with a 2000s era Sonic style atmosphere. So that's where they come in. Chip. Come on.
Speaking of love and inspiration.
Come on, boy. I know you want love. Apologies.
No worries.
This dog really wants love, unfortunately.
And that's okay. We don't mind puppy love on this show. And so when it comes to script writing and things like that, you said that you have a lot of ideas and things. You're busy outlining and stuff like that. How big of a world do you feel Shyft is? I mean, does it expand beyond this one character? Do you foresee
yes.
things like spin-offs and? Like where
There's
can we
always
expect to find
mhm.
Shyft?
There's always the idea of spin-offs, but obviously right now we're focusing on the main series because
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest and most important thing.
Right.
Because if we want to do spin-offs, we got to make sure we get the main thing done first, and we want to do it well. So the main idea is we have characters that we bring in and show off and Shyft, and if they survive in the story, they go on to later ventures. And again, there's always going to be the idea of spin-off material, but obviously right now we're very focused on getting the first one done.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to this storyline, this is I'm guessing this is Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As her storyline goes, we've talked to other creators who have said, "Hey, I see this as being like 100 issues. I see this as being
Mm-hmm.
50 issues." And a lot of times, I see numbers like that, and it scares the hell out of me. And I'm not even the one writing it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Wow, doesn't that ever feel too big?" Have you ever had
Mm-hmm.
those moments where you were like, are you just kind of putting your nose to the grindstone and working on this project, or do you see something that's like 20 issues out?
Mm-hmm. I see one that can go up to 50, even 60, but obviously there's always room to shorten a lot of padding at times because there's a lot of events that I had in the original outline that we can do if we want, so there's always a room if we want to explore elements, or we can always save them for something else. So the nice thing is the outline is always flexible, and the nice thing about Michael's writing is that he does such a great job that it doesn't really demotivate anybody because I enjoyed helping out as the product manager on it.
Mm-hmm.
Michael helped write the book, and he is enjoying his time writing it, while Bingo's also enjoying being able to really bring out his artistic styles with the book. So
Mm-hmm. And so I saw something here that said that it's 25 pages of interior work. So I'm
mhm.
guessing this is going to be like a 28-page book, covers and all.
Yes, we also have a one-page mini comic.
Okay, very cool. It is when it comes to your storytelling style though, when you're
Hmm.
because I know it's in the planning stages. I know that you want to
Hmm.
get book one done.
Hmm.
Um, do you foresee it kind of being like a strict, like I'm keeping to this, I want 25 pages with a mini story in each book? Or do you think that you'll kind of cater to the story and allow it to be maybe 24 pages or maybe
Hmm.
32 pages long?
Again, right now it's very flexible because obviously we're seeing how the campaign goes, but also, as I mentioned before, the outline is very flexible, so we can remove, we can add, we can
Hmm.
change. Because the nice thing is that Shift, while it is a linear story, we can always make changes if it benefits the story and characters.
Okay.
And
And
it's
that was,
something
yeah,
I had
go
to
ahead.
learn a lot before when I brought on Michael because he made a lot of changes that I absolutely love.
Hmm.
So, unfortunately for me, I had to learn quickly that in the writing process, there's some things you're just gonna have to let go, and it's something that's taught me to really do a better job at managing because one of the biggest things is that communication is key because if you don't communicate with someone and try going over them, it doesn't work out well.
Hmm.
Like I tried to edit the campaign page to help promote the benefits and stuff, like the add-ons and the mini comic, but it was a terrible idea because I made it like a marketing page for a generic business book, and it was a dumb thing because I basically went over Michael and he was pissed, rightfully so. So yeah, that's something I'm not doing again for sure.
Yeah, well, all of those learning curves, we don't come out of the gate knowing everything,
Hmm.
right? And so the best that we can do is just go, all right, lesson learned, not going to do that
Hmm.
again, and move forward.
Hmm.
But forward thinking though, and I want to know your opinion. How do you feel about series and things like that? Do you like the stories that have that linear line where it's a continuation, so you have to
Hmm.
start at one? Or are you more prone to have your storytelling where each one could be a standalone?
I say it depends on the story because some are good left open ended. Some I prefer to have an actual ending, but it is what it is.
And how does that affect your storytelling, though? How do you see yourself developing Shyft as very linear, like you just said, where we have to follow it from issue to issue, or do you feel like you can manage both? Where yes, there's that common thread throughout, so that you can follow the line, but it can still stand alone.
So the idea with Shyft is that it is a very linear, but the idea is you can pick up any issue and still enjoy the story and then want to catch up on what happened before. Which that's the main idea with Shyft, because it's supposed to be a comic for all ages where you can pick it up and enjoy something out of it.
Okay, so now when you say all ages, are you looking at kids like in elementary school, or like what is really your true demographic?
I'd say 10 to about, let's
10 and up.
say, yep.
10 and up is good. Because there are things that I really enjoy that are like truly all ages for like you know the littles, and just because the artwork is so much fun that we truly enjoy it, you know. So that could be that's me, kid at heart, right, Nita?
It's
Yes, ma'am.
it's definitely something I learned about a lot. This is actually I always like to bring this up because as much as I love being a storyteller, I also love to read other stories. So I always have a lot of interest in a lot of other books for a lot of ages. Like, for example, let's say I got something like Nightwolf, for example. This one is a lot more of an older audience. But then you also got something like, let's say, for example, Mighty Mascots, which is for a younger demographic, but also still great for people who are getting older as well. So I do have a lot of that mix because I love to read all kinds of comics and stuff. So.
And what was the one that really influenced you growing up that said, hey, this is what I want to do?
It was mainly the Sonic comics. Now, this is the IDW line. I still have to find my Archie ones, but again, it was a major influence. Especially when I was younger, because I love the series. I love the game series. Again, It has had bumpy roads, and I don't want to go there because I could go on and on about it. But it's still something that I was fond of, and I still am, so.
Very cool. Well, we're getting close to the end of our hour, and I would like to play the video. Are we okay as far as like Creative Commons music and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so if you don't mind, we're going to play this. Let's go full screen here and get this up and going. All right, you guys, this is the trailer for Shyft. Enjoy.
Shapeshifters. I have no doubt you heard of them. Everyone has at one point. Werewolves, vampires, the million variations we have yet to discover. The idea of living alongside those creatures is fascinating. But what if you are one? My name is Sunny, and I am a shifter.
Okay. Fun video. Who did you get? Is that something that you developed?
I was the one who developed the outline for the video, but it was actually edited by someone else. I'm going to actually put the link in the private chat because she did such a great job, and I actually promoted last night on Death Metal Hero stream as well because again, she did such a great job, so I love to spread the word.
Yeah,
And
good job on that.
Mhm.
And so we are looking at 2 days left on your campaign. It's a $4,000 flexible goal. Shift issue 1, New Beginnings. From the minds of Connery Cateni, Michael Oden, and Rigo, Dragon Multimedia presents Shift issue 1. Make sure that you back that today. And if we don't get to goal, Connery had mentioned that he is going to refund those who have backed because
it was scheduling with Ringo.
it was scheduling to get the art done, and I completely understand, and I totally respect wanting to get a project out in a timely manner, especially for the backers who are believing in this project. So moving forward, if it's a big if that you don't make it and you do refund, are you going to try and launch again on Indiegogo? Are you going to try a different platform? Where are you going with Shyft after this?
Obviously, we're going to have a discussion about it because, again, I had some mixed reactions about Kickstarter because I love both, but it's gone a little mixed, especially after the comics person blocked me.
Jamila Rouser, fuck that bitch. Suck my nuts, Jamila. I hope she watches this.
Yeah, she blocked me, and I never said anything bad to her at all.
Me either,
Well,
dude.
don't feel bad, Connery, because I got blocked and so did Geek Insider, and I'm like, Geek Insider, we're friggin' media,
Fuck,
man.
we're media. Oh my
We're
god.
media.
Like, I don't even, like, dude, as much money as we send to Kickstarter and promotions, man, they could suck my dick too. I mean, I'm sorry. Yo. It's still fresh. It's still fresh.
It's still fresh.
I'm
I don't know. I just she's gonna mute herself. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where, hey, I'm with you. A platform doesn't hurt my feelings. A platform is where I can make some money, and so I'm all for utilizing both. Yeah.
But one of the things is also that it's two different systems, payment methods, and also different audiences because.
Definitely.
Some prefer one or the other. And again, I don't like to eliminate some, even if the one person did block us, which is something I'm very mad about. But obviously, I like to put it behind if it means that we can have at least a good working relationship. Because I always believe in someone that... Because I want to believe in people that have my back at times.
Well, Trish, we love Trish, and we know that she backs a lot of campaigns. And I hope Mike is doing well. I hope you both are doing well. Some people. I mean, I understand the preferences. There are pros and cons to both. That is a totally different conversation. But my experience is I love Kickstarter because of the social media aspect of it and the networking aspect. However. I've gotten into trouble with it because, when you have a bunch of campaigns ending at the same time and you're like, I need them all in my life. And then they all come out and you have an electric bill due.
Yeah, and all of a sudden 1 week you have $400 taken out of your bank and you're like, what the fuck happened?
It's like, oh, that sucks. Whereas like on Indiegogo, I can kind of be like, okay, I can't back this now because it's coming right out of my check. So there are pros and cons to both. But hey, I'm all for don't leave money on the table, And if it doesn't work out, you try again. In fact, Conrad, I didn't know if you knew. I had a failed campaign. My first Kickstarter campaign was a failure, and I just I got back on the horse again. I networked a little bit more. I had a better presentation, and the second time out was a success. So yeah, I mean, definitely don't give up. Keep chasing that dream because. I don't know about you. I create because I have to. Otherwise, my brain would explode. And so with the final minutes here, I would like to ask you one last question. And that is, if you were going to give new creators coming into the industry one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
One of them I'd like to bring up is actually Nightwolf again, because I actually use this one because it's a great example of my story, because they actually had a failed campaign. The first time I had backed campaign, when they were just having the first issue. And one of the things with Shyft, we don't know if it's a failure yet, but I have gone through a lot of failures at times. The B-Row stream, I handled things poorly. The campaign edits were a terrible idea. And also there were some things that I should have done before, like I should have had a better networking, for example. And I should have really built up my platform a lot more. I shouldn't have ditched the two, or seemingly ditched them, when I should have used them a lot more. I should have... There are a lot of should-haves and would-haves, but one of the things I say is, you're going to make mistakes. You might have some failures in between, whether it's a failed campaign or failures on the social media as you get better and better. But I wouldn't let them define you, and I say, don't try to be ignorant and ignore them. I say, continue on and learn from your mistakes.
And that is a great piece of advice. And I really do wish you luck on your campaign and moving forward with however it is that you plan on relaunching this bad boy. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we are looking forward to seeing the story, outlined and developed by you, fleshed out by Michael Oden, and artwork by Rigo. So on that note, you guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been a Ragin' with Connery Cateni, Dragon Multimedia LLC. He's got the campaign Shyft on Indiegogo right now. Get over there, give it some love, share it out with your friends. That's right, I said it. Hit the button. Hey, Nita.
Yo.
Final words.
Throw my dudes.
Bye. Hey there. This is Meredith Loughran with Ragin', and I wanted to let you know that we encourage and promote independent creators and their projects through organic interaction, consultations, and more. Visit Nita and me at raginavc.com for details and contact information. Hit the button.